How are y'all tonight? Great. Great. We're glad you could be here. What do you think about the facility?
Excellent.
Well, I want to thank Jimmy Gomez and the Westland facility for allowing us to be here tonight. You're in one of the most secure data centers in the country. It's an awesome facility. There's a lot of large corporations that keep all their data here. If any of you guys are business guys and you're interested in making sure that your stuff stays up in a storm, this is where you want it to be, right here. So I think she's got some brochures out there if you're interested in learning, even small business. There's a lot of small business that have their stuff here. So it's a real safe and secure place to keep your information and all your housekeeping and all the records that you may have. A couple of housekeeping items. Hopefully you know where the restroom's at. As soon as you walk out that door, there's a hallway to your right. The restrooms are right down there. So make sure if you're eating food that you eat food outside this room. We really don't want people eating in here. I'll share that cookie with you, though. Only if you give me half. And so, but we want to make sure we take care of the facility, and you want to make sure that we respect that. There's also an author here that created an awesome book, or wrote an awesome book. It just got released last month. It's called Patriots of Treason, and it's on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble's. He's a local author. It's a great, great read, and I think he's going to be signing books after this if any of you guys are interested in books. So I also want to thank Tracy and Jackie Kearley for feeding us tonight. They brought us the food. And some good food it was. I did eat some of that. So I hope all of you got something to eat, but not too much, because we got a lot of great stuff to share with you tonight. You know, when I first heard about the movement, the Texas National Movement, I think it was kind of in the air. Everybody was just kind of, everybody I would talk to, I'm a business guy, and everybody I would talk to in business would feel the same thing. And it was our liberty and our freedom being encroached on. And, this is our watch right now, is our watch. And it's happening on our watch. So this is an important event tonight. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that all of you came to listen. To start this off tonight, I'm going to ask Pastor Randy to come up and do the invocation tonight. So Pastor Randy, would you come up and share with us?
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for loving us this evening. Thank you, Lord, that you are the author of freedom, that you said that we can stand fast in the freedom wherein you've made us free. And Lord, this evening we understand that we live in a land that needs intervention from you. Lord, we know that there's a lot of talk about fiscal cliffs. And Lord, I pray, Lord, you'd help us to understand that there's a moral cliff in front of the fiscal cliff. Help us, Lord, to be faithful to you. Help us, Lord, to give us wisdom tonight. We don't want to get off on anything we don't need to be on. We need wisdom from you. Pray, Lord, that you would help our nation. Lord, we do pray for our president and our Congress. I pray, Lord, that you would help them, give them wisdom. I pray, Lord, for everybody here this evening. Help us, Lord, as you said if we lack wisdom, that we should ask you for wisdom. And Lord, we do that this evening. We just humble ourselves, understanding that we need your wisdom this evening. Thank you for all you do for us. Thank you for everyone, Lord, that has come here this evening. I pray, Lord, that you would smile on this event and that we would be faithful to you and also faithful to our country. In Jesus' name.
So let it be.
So, let me see here on my list, make sure I haven't missed anything. All right. I think that's all I had to do. Oh, cell phones. Yeah, if you have them, if you don't mind turning them to vibrate or turning them off so that you're not interrupting tonight, that would be great. Anything else I might have missed? Oh, there we go. That's the important one. Make sure you signed in. If you haven't signed in, we need you to sign in. So before you leave tonight, we'd like to pass it around. Make sure you get your name and your number and your email so that we can keep you in the loop on things that are going on. Because what we need right now is we need freedom. And through freedom, we're going to have independence. And it takes numbers and it takes money. And those are the things that we need right now, is numbers and money. So with that, I'm going to introduce Tracy. Tracy and I have been friends for a very long time. And it brought back a lot of memories tonight. I was sitting back there and I was looking at those cookies going, those cookies look familiar. Because I used to get those cookies every week before they moved out there to where a lot of you guys know where Tracy and Jackie live today. And I almost started crying. I was looking at that going, she used to bring me cookies every week. Now she's bringing them to a lot of you. That's just not right. But I know you're enjoying them, because I did. But we've been friends for a long time, and I respect him, and he's a great business guy and a very successful guy, and he's got his heart right, and I'm just excited that he's here tonight with us all. Help me welcome Tracy Kearley.
I ain't been sharing many of them cookies. Hello, welcome to this event, man. We're excited to have everything going tonight. And those who don't know me, my name is Tracy Kearley, as Randy said. And most people just know me as Cowboy. Either one will work for y'all. So anyway, my bride Jackie and my three children and my grandkids, we all live here in Montgomery County, and we have several different businesses here we own and operate, and they're all Texas owned businesses, and we just loved being here. I was born in Big Springs, Texas, but I was raised in South Louisiana, and Monday after I graduated, I moved back to Texas, so I got back here fast as I could. We have an exciting agenda for y'all tonight, and we got in the house the president of the Texas National Movement, and also the executive director of the Texas National Movement, and also and they'll be introduced to y'all later, and we also will be hearing from some businessmen, kind of like myself, and we got some special guest speakers for y'all tonight. We're here to get some information and some knowledge on Texas independence, our constitutional rights, and Texas becoming independent. Since the November results, the Texas movement has really been on fire. The speakers y'all be hearing from tonight from the Texas National Movement, they have been booked solid, and whether they're doing these kind of meetings or doing TV and radio debates all over the country. You see, we were put on this earth to serve God, and second, we was here to serve and love one another. Our forefathers understood this, and they built our country on these principles and these values. This is not the country our forefathers built. This is not the country we want to leave our children and our grandchildren. Our Texan forefathers paid attention on our behalf way back in 1876. You see, our forefathers would not have allowed God to be taken out of our government, nationally, state, and local, our courts, nor our schools. They put them in. Look, you think they would let our unborn babies be unborn? Would you think they'd let that get passed? No way. You see, our country is spinning out of control. We not only owe it to our God first, but we also owe it to our forefathers and our grandkids and our children. This is where we can make a difference. If we don't make a stand now, who will? Now I've heard more the last couple of weeks as we're putting this event together that Texas independence will never happen. And they're exactly right with that attitude. If we make a stand, if no one makes a stand, nothing will ever happen. So keep your minds open tonight and see if we can make a difference. Let's draw a line in the sand. Now, I thought I was supposed to be introducing Randy, But if we jumping Randy, Dave, or okay, yeah. Well, this is my great privilege to introduce one of my very best friends, my neighbor for several years, and a business acquaintance of mine. Speak for a few moments. If y'all know him, it'll be more than a few moments. Now here's Randy County.
All right. Well, we started, as a business guy, we started feeling some pressures, and we have a lot of very large clients, and we interact with a lot of people across the state and the country, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody I talk to that's not worried. I mean, extremely worried. It doesn't matter whether they're in this state or some other state. They're extremely worried about what they're seeing and perceiving out there in the world today. And, before the election, we had already been talking. I think it was several years ago, we went to Fort Nacious Groves and met Daniel, the gentleman you're going to hear from tonight. Several of the people carried and spoke with him. We went to their offices, and because at that time, we were still just not sure what was going to happen. And this was back before the elections, before Obama was elected. And, it's just the things that we were seeing, the laws that were being passed, and the things that were happening around us. And the thing that affects me is this is not for you and me. Okay? It's not. It's for everyone else. It's for our kids. It's for our grandkids. And so, tonight, it's hard for some people to come to the realization that it's going to take independence to be free again. Okay? And I know that there's a path that some people get to and they're just not there yet, and a lot of you may not be. I'm there. Okay? It's not fixable. I don't believe it is fixable. And so it's going to take a group of men and women that do draw the line in the sand and say, we're going to make a difference. We're going to make a stand. We're not going to allow this to happen anymore. And that's what this independence movement's all about. We want to take it to a vote. We want to put it in front of the legislature, and we want it to go to a vote to the people of Texas and let the Texans of this state decide whether we want independence or not. That's what our motives are. That's what we're trying to do tonight, is gather numbers and people so that we can go out and convince the legislature, the politicians, that they need to bring this to a vote. They need to put this to the legislature. And so you're going to hear a lot about that tonight, and you're going to hear a lot about this map. I don't know if you've seen this map. Okay? This is the map of what the counties of our state went to this year after the election, this last election, and this presidential election. There's counties in here that have been conservative for over 60 years that aren't today. Okay? I talked a little bit about, it's kind of like a pot of boiling water. That's how I think about all the people over the last 4 or 5 years that I've been talking to, and every one of them had the same feeling. It's not because they had a conversation with anybody. It's just because they can feel it inside. And it's like now the water is warm. It's hot. And we don't have I don't believe we have a very short time before it's boiling and it's over. And so I hope tonight that you get inspired, because really the way this thing does is that you get involved and you commit money and you commit time and you commit energy and you join an organization that goes out and builds numbers, because it's going to take more than us. And if everybody here just went out and met one person and brought them to the next meeting that you went to, and you just double that every time, it's called the penny double. And guess what? It doesn't take very long to build numbers. And that's what politicians, that's what they listen to, is numbers. So I hope tonight that you'll get inspired and that you'll join us in making the decision that Texas needs to be free. With that, I'm going to bring up our next speaker. Kerry is a great speaker. He's actually, I think, a retired state trooper. I've just known him for a very short period of time, but I can tell you, he's got a tremendous amount of wisdom to share with you tonight. So help me welcome from the Texas National Movement, Kerry Wise.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate all of y'all coming tonight, and it's an honor to be here to be able to speak to you. I want to start off because we're here to talk about Texas independence tonight, and for some of you that's a comfortable subject, and for some folks around the country it's a little hard to get their head wrapped around yet because we just haven't grown up thinking about that. We've grown up thinking about the United States and the Union and everybody being one and indivisible and all those kind of things that we learned from grade school on. And I'm going to tell you, I'll do a 2-hour presentation on this, and I got to boil it down to about 15 or 20 minutes tonight. So I'm going to hit the high points for you. I want to start off because it's important that we all relate to each other. Folks, I am a Vietnam veteran. I did back-to-back tours in Vietnam. I fought for this country. I'm also an ex-state trooper. I fought for my community. I took an oath in the United States Air Force to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Also took one to my state. And as I struggled through the years, voting for 41 solid years, waiting for the next guy to come in and make it better, and make it better, and make it better, I finally realized that I had not broken my oath to this country. This country had broken their oath to me. The same oath that I took, they take. And I'm talking about politicians. Politicians in Austin, politicians in Washington, D.C. And so the point I'm trying to make to you here is that as coming from where I came from to where I am today, the executive director of the Texas Nationalists, and I'm blessed to have that position, was a journey. Everybody takes a journey. You start off going, something's wrong. Then you progress to chunking stuff at the TV. Anybody got that? And then I progressed to one day I was so mad, I was walking down the hallway and my wife, my darling bride, said, Texas just needs to secede and become independent. And I turned around and I looked at her and I said, are you crazy? The same thing we hear day in and day out. But that I continued my journey and I read the history and I looked at the alternatives that we have. And folks, we are out of options. We are out of options. I'll drive that home a little bit for you in a minute, but I want to talk to you about the TNM here, since I got that out of the way. Our mission statement, folks, we exist to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas. Now, if anybody in here wants to argue with me that all three of those are under severe attack right now, you'll lose. You're not going to convince me. We are economically not getting ready for a decline, folks. We are in it. Culturally, we are in a decline. You just heard him talk about how we've taken God off the street. You take God off the street, and your nation is done. And culturally, we're under it. I'm from Hondo, Texas. I don't know if you know where Hondo is, on the other side of San Antonio. San Antonio has been blessed with a mayor and a family who doesn't like the Alamo. It was filled, their quote is, filled with nothing but drunks and crooks. They don't care about our history. They don't care about our culture. So the Texas Nationalist Movement has that mission statement because without all three of those, folks, you do not have a country. Now you can add to that borders that are completely out of control. Without borders, you don't have a country. You can add to that politicians who are up there, and folks, we spend an inordinate amount of time in Austin, Texas. I don't know if any of you have or not before, but those folks are not up there for us. They're up there for themselves. You know why I'm telling you that? We've got a destroyed education system in this state. We've got out of control borders. We got them spending like mad bandits, the same as Washington, D.C. We got a gambling bill. We got a gambling bill. And so, folks, we spent time with them up there. We know what they do. We know what they don't do. And so, as the Texas Nationalist Movement, we believe that the only way that this can be fixed is by becoming independent. And I'll tell you why. We have three options. The first one is called restoration. We can restore our constitutional republic to the way it was intended, but to do that, we've got to get rid of not every politician, but about 99% of them, and start over again. Then we've got to clean out the judicial system. You are one heart attack, one retirement away from having a 5-4 liberal Supreme Court. And that doesn't count all the federal judges that are in between. So to restore what we believe in, the beliefs and the fundamental beliefs of freedom and liberty and a constitutional republic, to restore that, folks, think about it, is basically impossible. I've been trying for 41 years. We see what the results are. The second option we have is nullification. The 10th Amendment. Everybody wants to go with the 10th Amendment. That's great. That's what it was put there for. If they hand us down something that's unconstitutional, then we ought to be able to nullify it with the 10th Amendment. Unfortunately, nobody uses the 10th Amendment. Unfortunately, the 10th Amendment has a little bit of a flaw in it because it is an amendment that is based on one program at a time. You want to nullify Obamacare? Great. I always tell people, and Daniel uses this line a lot, is this cake of liberalism, this cake of progressivism, this cake of us losing our freedoms and our independence has been baking for 100 years. People say, well, y'all just got started because of Barack Obama. No, folks, we've been here 16 years. 16 years. All this administration did was light the candles on the cake and wake everybody up. That's exactly what happened. So again, if you want to nullify something, that's wonderful. But folks, there's 100 years of case law coming down from judges, 100 years of executive orders, 100 years of laws that impede upon your liberty and our freedom every single day.
Amen.
To take us back to a constitutional republic, folks, would take thousands of years through the nullification process. So those two options are gone. It's too late. The third option is, folks, we stand up as Texans with the culture that we have, with the history that we have, with the ability that we have, and stand up and say, no, absolutely not. Texas needs to be free and independent again. We were there once, and we need to go back because the other options are not doable. Now there's a fourth option. Daniel Miller wrote this book. It's called Line in the Sand. There's been some beautiful prayers here tonight, and I love them. And I'm a religious guy, but I'm going to tell you, this book is the Bible of Texas independence. You can go to our website, texasnationalist.com, and you can download this book for free. If you don't read it, shame on you. Now, I don't want to offend anybody I don't know, but shame on you. That's it, right there. He laid out those three options in this book. But there's a fourth option. And it's called sit on the couch and choke it down. That option is unacceptable to me and to about 250,000 Texans who affiliate with this organization. And a whole bunch more that are coming on every day. Every day. Now, folks, I just want to kind of wrap this up here for you right quick. What is the Texas Nationalist Movement doing? We have two roads that we follow. One of them is the legislative road. We are going to gain Texas independence. I heard somebody say in the beginning here that, well, you think it'll ever happen? Folks, it must happen. It is inevitable. Because folks like us are not going to sit on the couch and choke it down. So we have a political path. Our path is to get a bill filed in Austin, Texas, not in Washington, D.C., that will give the people of Texas an up or down vote on Texas independence. We apply political pressure in Austin. We spend almost every spare penny we have doing radio and TV interviews and going down and meeting with the senators and the representatives. And if you want to have a frustrating day, just come along with us because it's not a lot of fun. They're not there for us. But our direction there is political. To apply political pressure that is unbearable so somebody in Austin, Texas will stand up for Texas.
Yeah.
And the other road we go down, folks, is teaching. Every one of you in here has probably got about 150 questions tonight. Well, what about this and what about that? And can we do it? Can we survive? Do we have enough money? Will the U.S. military attack us? I got them all. If you'll go to our website, to the Q&A section, TexasNationalist.com, you'll see tons and tons of those. We get them everywhere we go. There are answers for each and every one of them. Don't have time to do that tonight because that turns into a 2-hour program. But they're there. And they're answerable, and they make common sense, and they're tied in with history and tradition and what's going on in the rest of the world right now. And so, folks, we travel constantly around the state doing these type of programs. Normally, at a regular meeting, I would spend the next hour doing nothing but answering questions because those questions have to be answered. So we teach and we teach and we teach. You've got to understand the options that are not available to us anymore. You've got to understand that we are out of options at this point. And so what we've got to do is help people complete that journey. That is our job. I will look at each and every one of you out here. If you join this organization, we are the foot soldiers of Texas independence. And we do it by teaching. Now, while we're teaching, there are groups of us that go to Austin and we volunteer. We're all volunteers, folks. We volunteer because we have to. We need to. And we want to. And we're applying pressure in Austin, Texas while we're over here teaching people because when the vote comes, and it will come, we want people to vote for Texas independence. And to do that, they've got to be educated. They've got to be trained. They've got to have common sense. Be the thing that makes their decision. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. I do not hate the United States of America. I love the United States of America. I will tell you I have spent at least one evening in all 50 states. Not 57, there's only 50. And I love the United States. And I always will. But I can't live with a government that are going to take away not only my God-given rights, and the rights as written and explained by our founding fathers, but also my children and grandchildren. And that sometimes sounds hokey, but I'm a grandpa, and it's not hokey to me. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of finish this thing up with this. We've got a political road we go down. We've got a teaching road we go down. We can only teach so much. You have got to sit down yourself and weigh the options. What did I tell you? What I told you, is it true? Do you feel that way? Do you understand? And then you've got to stand up and do something about it. Or sit on the couch and choke it down like a lot of people in this state will do. That's unacceptable to me, and it's unacceptable to the people in the Texas Nationalist movement. I will close with this. 2 things. Number one, whether you come on board with us at the Texas Nationalist Movement and work for Texas independence or not, I urge you to go to our website and download this book. It will not only start you on your journey, it will help you complete it if you've already started. And I would say most of you have a little bit because you're here. It is a brilliant, brilliant book. It's named Line in the Sand. This is misused so much that none of us can hardly stand to hear that phrase on TV anymore. They're drawing a line in the sand. And if you cross it, you're in trouble. It's not what Travis did, folks. Dan, I'm stealing one of your lines here. I hope you don't mind. He drew a line in the sand and asked people to step over it as a commitment. As a commitment for freedom and as a commitment for liberty. We use, here in Texas, that phrase correctly. And I'll close with this. And this is going to really sound hokey. But if you're going to come into this organization, you're going to get to know us. And you're going to get to know the other people that you will soon be calling brother and sister and all that other kind of stuff. Because we love each other. Because we love the same thing. Freedom and independence. History is an interesting lady. We sit around now and we marvel at the people in 1776 who had the courage to stand up and say, "No, England, we're going to declare our independence." And we marvel at the Founding Fathers. And then we go into 1835 and 1836 and we marvel at the heroes of Texas. The Travises and the Houstons and the people who stood up and said, "No, we're not going to give in to a dictatorship." And lo and behold, we've gone around in a great big circle because here we are again. I'm 62 and a half years old. I know I look a lot younger than that, but I never thought for once in my life that I would be standing up here at 62 years old talking about Texas independence. I'm going to tell you right now, I'd much rather be in Hondo, Texas, fishing and having cocktails because I'm good at both of them. That's another joke. I am good fishing. But folks, history has gone around full circle. It is time that this generation, it is our time in history that we again are going to have to become the founding fathers and mothers of a new independent nation of Texas. And that is a heavy burden to carry. And I mean that with all of my heart and all of my sincerity. That's where we are. We will either become the founding mothers and fathers of a new nation, or we'll sit on the couch and choke it down. And I and a whole bunch of other people in Texas choose not to do that. We choose not to do that. I'm going to urge you to go to our website. It is full of information. It is full of questions and answers. It's full of videos. It's full of articles that have been written. You'll be amazed at some of the things that you read there, and you'll certainly work your way on your journey to deciding what is right for you and your family in your future. I want to ask you to take a serious look at it. We need you. Our political power is the people. Our state constitution says all political power is inherent in the people. You want to know how to apply political pressure in Austin, Texas? You fill up the South Lawn and watch them start dancing. They will dance. Trust me. One of us goes up there and they go, 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or 100,000 of us go up there and we'll have Texas independence. We'll have Texas independence. I wish you a pleasant journey if you're going to take this journey. If you have questions, you can always get a hold of us. We'll be glad to answer any of them. You want to go back to your local communities, you want to have a meeting, we'll be there. We'll help you. We'll be your crutch until you're ready to do what I'm doing right now. And it doesn't take long because it's a pretty simple topic. We're either going to be free or we're not going to be, bottom line. With that, I'm going to go ahead and say, God bless everybody here, and remember this. We are blessed in the bounty of Texas, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody ever take that away from me, and you should feel the same way.
Amen.
You're up here. I'm supposed to introduce you.
No, you're not. Not again. Not again. Great job. And that's what I love about Kerry. He's passionate. He truly wants to see Texas be free. And he does, there's a lot of things he could be doing tonight besides being the birthplace of the Texas flag, Montgomery, Texas. You realize that's where you're all at, right? The birthplace of the Texas flag, right here. A lot to be proud of right here. Okay? So I'm excited tonight to introduce Dave Roberts. He's an author. He's my partner. He's a great business guy. And he's going to share some things tonight with you about some of the artists that are here tonight that we're going to help try to increase our numbers and grow the Texas national movement. So here's Dave Roberts.
Y'all see these two gentlemen sitting up here next to me. If you haven't had a chance to come up here and look at these and read them and see the detail on these, please do. That's why they're here. These are I've never bought a piece of fine art. A lot of folks don't think I'm too cultured anyway. So, and I'm not sure Craig, when I bring Craig up here, who is the artist that did this sculpture, I'm not even sure how we met or how that all came about. Maybe he knows that story. I don't know. All I knew since this is, like Randy said, the birthplace of the Lone Star flag, that Craig was instrumental in getting the city and county government to set land aside over by the library off of 45 near Gladsdale. If you haven't been there, you got to go and do a monument to the Lone Star flag and the 13 flags of the Texas Revolution. When I found out that there was a way to be a member of that and to have, he was only going to do 13 of these particular statues, I had to have one. I had to have one. And that's how Craig and I met. And, I'm going to be, as soon as Craig is done, I'm going to be explaining some of the membership opportunities here that you can take advantage of and some of the things that we've come up with to help drive, honestly, to drive money to the organization, because we need money. We need people and money, as you've heard already. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out what we could do as additional incentives, like, Texas independence isn't enough, but to help, do something that you can identify with, when you give your money, especially if you're going to be one of our patron members. And I called Craig. And I said, Craig, help me. What can we do? I mean, these guys love Texas. These gals love Texas. What can we do that would help the membership drive for the TNM? And I'm going to bring him up here, and he's going to explain that to you. Then we're going to talk about another artist here who's also here with us today, Robert Swystall. I call him Bobby because I grew up with him. But first, I want to introduce Craig Campobella. If you haven't been to his website, just an incredible artist. I want him to go through the detail of the Texian, how it came about, and some of the things about it. And then, Craig, before you get into the rendition that we're going to talk about, I'll come back up with you here for a second. So would y'all help me welcome Texas artist Craig Campobella, who's also the founder.
I want to read you a text right quick. November 26th at 7:26 p.m. I sent a text to Dave. It says, Dave? He texts back, yes. How long do I have to speak on Thursday? He said, 20 minutes. I said, that's a long time. And a tremendous amount of trust in someone that can barely string together 60 seconds of anything remotely interesting. He said, just talk about the Texian and everything will be okay. So that's what I'm here to talk about. First of all, I'm honored to be here. Back in 2005, I was driving down I-45, and just to give you a little taste about how much I love this state, back in 1984, 85, I was out in Los Angeles. Some friends of mine from Texas had talked me into coming out there. There was great opportunities for artists and stuff, and I got out there and I was driving up the Pacific Coast Highway with one of these guys, and Gary P. Nunn's song came on, what I like about Texas. I'll tell you what I like about Texas. And I looked over at Lonnie and I said, I'm going back home. I packed up my stuff and I came back home. And that's a true story. I got to tell Gary P. Nunn of it during the unveiling that all these guys were out when we did this. Anyway, I was driving down I-45 and I just thought it was really cool that this was the birthplace of the Lone Star flag. And out of all the icons in the world, you can go almost anywhere in the world, and it's cool if you're a Texan. And you could say, I'm from Delaware, and somebody will go, are you looking for the restroom or what? But if you say you're from Texas, it's a whole different deal. So it is like a whole different country. And I saw this flag park kind of in my imagination to tell the history, because the longer I've lived, the more I've noticed that our history keeps getting pushed down. I don't know if it's purposeful or not, I don't know, but you don't see a lot of new monuments like the San Jacinto Monument and Goliad, all these places. You don't see them springing up. And I thought, what a great opportunity on one of the most highly traveled roads to be able to send traffic over to Montgomery for people to see where Charles B. Stewart came from and one of the earliest towns after Texas became a republic. And to put some of the flags up there. I didn't know what a can of worms that I was really opening when I did it. It was just a real naive kind of patriotic vision that I had. Let's explain how all this thing happened and all the different cultures involved. As I started doing the studies and I started reading the books and going there, I realized that I knew about 1/1000th of the story of Texas. And it became more and more interesting to me every time I turned a page or talked to somebody else. What I'd learned in school was just scratched the surface. So I started studying, and then I even went even more into it. I guess y'all ever heard of method actors? The Stanislavski method actors? I guess I'm a method sculptor because then I had to go down to the altar, the Loretta altar down at the Goliad, where 354 men were massacred and piled up and set on fire and left to rot for 2.5 months until they found them. I actually laid down in the ditch where they kicked Fannon's body after they shot him in the head and let him lay there. And I walked out all around where they were strewn about. I picked up little rocks and I put them in my pocket. I went to Washington on the Brazos. I sat in there and I wondered what it was like to hear those men talk about what they felt like needed to be done. I went to the San Jacinto Monument and sat there and watched and looked and read about all the people from all the different countries that had come. And when I started gathering all this information together, then I thought, this is not the time to do this kind of thing to focus on one particular hero, David Crockett or Sam Houston or whatever. It's just the everyday guy. The everyday guy that just picked up a pitchfork. Some of them didn't even have shoes, and some of them were dressed really nice. They were a ragtag army, is what they were called. There was somebody that said that the Days of Olive Flag, which is what that is, never existed. And I'm not a researcher or historian by any means, by degree. And I found a cartoon in 1836, and that flag was flying behind this ragtag army, guys this tall and they made them look stupid. And Sam Houston barking out orders. And I started talking to the Sons of the Republic of Texas and all the daughters and every kind of historical group. And I came up to do this just this common guy. And this wasn't really meant to be sold. This was a study. It's called a maquette. It's basically a maquette is a French word for a mock-up or an unfinished work, because when you work with these, you have to work with the foundry. This isn't plaster of Paris. It's painted bronze. This isn't pecan resin. This isn't made like ice in an ice tray. Each one is individually made and welded. There's like 52 steps. 8 professionals work on getting this just right. Patina and you can go to a website and learn about the lost wax method. It's 3,000 years old, and nothing much has changed. It's really old school. So, as I started working on this with the foundry and deciding how we were going to put it together, I started thinking about all these just common folk that got up and stood up for something, and the result of it is something that we are all very proud of. And I wanted to put some symbolism in there. So the one that it started with this one, but the one that's over at the Lone Star Monument Historical Flag Park, underneath the left foot are 13 stones for the 13-day siege of the Alamo. And on each of those stones is 354 individual marks. And that's for all the men that were massacred at Goliad. And that's under the left foot. And then under the right foot, there were 9 stones for each life that was lost at the Battle of San Jacinto. And then under the right toe, if you come up and look at it, his foot, so I don't know if you ever stepped on the big rock with your boots, but it could hurt your foot. And there's a Santa Ana stone Because he remained a
Pain in
pain
your
in
foot.
the, you got it, for a long time after that. And then, moving on up, I decided I'd put 18 buttons on him. And 18 buttons represent each of the 18 minutes fought at the Battle of San Jacinto. And somebody has counted all the buttons on the real one, and they said there's only like 16 buttons on there. And I said, really? And I said, yeah. We got up there, we crawled up on the mountain and counted them. I said, did you count the two under his scarf right here? And they said, it's bronze, we can't lift it up. I said, exactly. But they're under there. They have to be, or his pants would be down around his ankles.
That's right.
The last thing that you want is a hero with his pants down around his ankles on I-45.
Yeah.
So they're there. So you can crawl up there and you can count them. And to make sure, the only way that I could get 18 was on the piece there on I-45, there's two strings that are flapping in the breeze. So you can see where the button was lost and it hasn't been put on there yet. And I have to refer to this because I forget all of them. I was just having fun one day. I forget. Oh, the sash, the Texian soldiers, they wore their sashes on their right hip. Every other army in the world wore theirs on their left hip. Who knows why, but that's another little cool thing. And at about 5:15, sometime in there, is when the Battle of San Jacinto finished up. So, if you consider where he's facing, 12 noon, if you stand about 5 o'clock, 5:15, you'll look up and his necktie has it makes the symbol Alpha, and the scarf makes the Omega sign, and the beginning and the end of the Texas Revolution. And that's it. I think that's all of them. And when Dave called me the other day, these are very expensive to make. If you go down to a foundry and want to get started, you're talking a couple of $100 an inch just to get going, making a mold and all that stuff. Anybody that collects bronzes understand. You never see real bronzes in garage sales, ever. They're just made to last. And anyway, we got it all done, and since then, it's just been amazing to me, the phone calls that I get from mothers and fathers that their kids went there and were really moved by it, and then mom and dad were moved by it. People from all over the world that send emails and say they had no idea how inclusive this state was then. You could find people from almost every country, every nationality that had one thing in mind. And, when I was doing this, before all this political uproar started with the elections and all that kind of stuff, it was just me really wanting to bring out our past and the brave families, men, women, soldiers that actually stood up and did something. So when Dave called me, I'd had people that had asked me to do smaller ones, and it just wasn't feasible really to do it until Dave called. So
I'm gonna have you explain what we're going to do, and then I'll talk about the membership and how it's going to work.
So we started talking about doing a smaller version of the Texian. And the last couple of days I started doing this. I've got to go to the foundry and make sure that everything works technically, mechanically for this. But we're going to do the same thing out of bronze with all the symbolism and all that. This is an oil-based clay. You can leave and come back 100 years later and still work on it. It doesn't dry out or anything. It's made for what I do. And we're going to have those made. The flag's going to be bigger. Everything will be bronze. All the hand done. And then it's going to sit on a 2-inch block of handmade black walnut. We'll set on the top of it like that. And this is the front. And it'll say the Texian right there. And what I've decided to do is put one name of everyone that died during the Texas Revolution or fought in any of the wars from 1835 to 1836 through probably starting at Gonzales and going through San Jacinto. And we'll put one name back there and where they fought at, and then whoever gets that one can go do the research and find out more about the great people that made this a place that we could turn into a great state. So,
Very good.
You can set it somewhere where people can see it. Thanks, Greg. Also, as I get into some of these other membership opportunities, I want, we have another artist here that I mentioned, Robert Swishaw. I call him Bobby. I'm sure it's okay if you do too. I hope. He, extremely talented artist. And we were kicking around some ideas for, I've seen in his taxidermist shop sketches that he's done by hand that to me look like pictures. And so the idea came that what if we took a few really important Texas history scenes and you drew those and we numbered them, and that becomes part of folks' membership, depending on what level of membership they come in at. And so, Bobby, would you stand up for a second? Introduce Bobby real quick. Hey, Bobby. Bob is working on those. We don't have anything to show yet, right, Bob? No, not yet. It's coming. And let me explain what he's drawing. And if you want to add anything to it, Bobby, go ahead. But he's the signing of the Texas Declaration of Independence, the Come and Take It flag with the cannon, the skirmish in Gonzales, and of course, Travis drawing the line in the sand. So those are the ones that Bob's working on. So Bob, you want to add anything to that about what you're working on? We got a couple of ideas. Some of them are surprises. I'm just whetting their appetite. So we're also working on, and Daniel, we haven't talked about this yet, so this is going to be news to Daniel too. So look at Daniel. He's like, uh-oh. Bobby is also working. He's an extremely talented knife maker, and he's working on a special edition Bowie knife and for the Texas Nationalist Movement. And he's going to show it to you. He's going to show you a mock-up of it.
Oh,
Why don't you explain a little bit about it?
Well, this is a prototype that I've done, and want to put a Ranger seal right here, and I'll probably put that in tomorrow. This is a 440 stainless, see, and I've got file work running down here with some red and black on both sides of it. I don't know if
Is
y'all
this
can
bone?
see
Is that bone handle?
it. And that's bone
Okay.
with a bronze hilt, and
Beautiful.
it's pretty simple.
It's nice.
But I haven't made a sheet yet, so I've got an old one sitting here with it. I was trying to make it last night, and I didn't get it done.
I could go to Bobby and ask him to make anything, and he could just not make anything we asked him to make. So thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. And we'll have more news about these coming out. We don't have the news on the knife yet. We've got a few of the drawings, and I'll be sharing it with you here in a second. But how about a hand for Bobby?
That's pretty nice.
Randy, can I get
I
you
want
to?
one of those.
We're going to hand these out in a second. Okay, folks. Do what? Oh, no, we're going to do one introduction is fine. Before we go into these memberships, and Randy, before you hand those out, just a couple things I want to say. Some of y'all have read the book Patriots of Treason, and let me strongly, I second Carrie's motion about the line in the sand. Incredible. You got to read it. It is our Bible. There's no doubt about it for the Texas Nationalists. And I've been on probably 3 dozen radio interviews since the book's released. And one of the first questions people ask me is, where did you get the name? And, how do you come up with Patriots of Treason? Isn't that like an oxymoron? Kind of like honest politician or jumbo shrimp or...
Yeah.
And really, you're either a patriot or you're treasonous, depending on your point of view. So, it's really interesting, and I'm sure Daniel and Carrie have had this too on their radio and television appearances, but I get people on the call-in sometimes say, well, you guys are treasonous. And I said, well, if you use that line of logic, then you should also consider Washington and Jefferson and Franklin and Patrick Henry and Sam Houston and William Barrett Travis treasonous. And it pretty much shuts people right up. So, one of the things that I'm sure Daniel and Carrie would tell you too is that when people are asking about this movement, you really only have about 6 objections. It's illegal. It was settled in 1860. It's treasonous. I don't know, Daniel, you could probably name them off the top of your head. And there is a logical answer to each one of those. And some of them I'm just like, okay, come on, give it to me because I got an answer for it. I can't wait till you ask it. So, and you will learn that. You will learn how to answer people that say, oh, you can't do it. Or, the funny one is, well, what about all the money the federal government's put into the system in Texas and the highways and the roads? And, well, who do you think paid for those? Texans paid for those roads. We
Way
put out,
more.
listen, the latest statistics, and what statistics you want to believe, we only get back 84 cents out of every dollar that we send to Washington. Okay? And again, Dwayne, if you haven't made Dwayne Stowell back there, he can give you the facts and figures. It depends on whose study you're reading. Okay? But there's no doubt that we send more money to Texas than we get back. So, it's amazing to me the logic that comes back, and you'll get it, and you'll hear it. You're going to have objections to this. You're going to think people think it's some kind of fringe group. We are not a militia, okay? But speaking of militias, there's a little Texas history for you too. Back in the 1830s, it was the militias were as common as the volunteer fire department, and they were usually the same thing.
Yeah.
So. You will learn that none of those, you can ask these questions enough, you'll learn, when I was getting these questions asked early, I'm like, okay, I want the answer to this. And I started hanging around Daniel and Carrie and other folks who had answers to those questions that made sense, and you learn them. And really, you can talk to anybody about this. They're gonna quote Supreme Court decisions that don't apply. We have answers to all this, folks, so don't let any of that scare you. I have a ring that some of you may have noticed. Every once in a while I get asked, what school is that from? And it's not from a school. I did this ring, how many years ago, Randy?
Probably about 4 or 5.
4 or 5 years ago. Because this is kind of always been a part of me. But in where a stone goes, there's a state star of Texas. And with the words victory or death around it. And you know where that comes from. That's from Travis's letter from the Alamo. So, there's also a state, the Yellow Rose of Texas, my wife's name's Rose. The Texas flag, the stars and bars, which I have a lot of ancestry in the Confederacy. So, this stuff is really near and dear to me. And it always has been. And I was so thankful to, I heard Daniel Miller on a radio station one day. Just completely by coincidence. And I pulled over on the road I got to find this guy, and I finally found him. And it was a couple years ago. And I just want to before I go through these membership things, I just want to say a few things about the organization. Daniel's been doing this for 16 years. Carrie, how long have you been doing this? Okay. I will tell you guys, we will never know. I don't know. We will never know the sacrifices that Daniel's made, that Carrie's made, that other folks have made. I can tell you for a fact, just the time I spend on this, takes away from other businesses and takes away from family. And no matter where we ask for somebody to be, Daniel and Carrie are always willing to go. Hey, we got some people that want to talk to us in Lubbock. When are we going? Hey, we got some people that want to talk to us in Montgomery. Just tell us when and where we'll be there. That's the kind of guys that we're talking about. And we're talking about salt of the earth, integrity, and kind of people that I want to align with. And so I'm telling you guys, you're with the right group of people. You're definitely with the right group of people. You know, before I go into these memberships, you know, William Barrett Travis, I'll just give you a few probably things about Texas history you didn't know. William Barrett Travis, born in South Carolina, moved to one of 9 kids, moved to Alabama, taught himself law out of law books that he borrowed, passed the bar exam in Alabama. The other attorneys pretty much ran him out of business, wouldn't give him any work. Got married, had a child, and found his wife cheating on him and killed him. But y'all didn't know that, did you? Left his wife.
Settled it back then. It was a duel.
Well, you settled with duels and things like that nature back then. In Alabama at the time, you could not get a divorce. It had to take a decree from the Alabama legislature. If you can imagine having to go to, any of y'all that have been divorced, having to go to the state legislature to get your divorce. Finally, ended up in Anahuac. And when he was in Anahuac, formed a militia. By the way, he taught himself law, passed the law exam at 19 years old in Alabama. So you can see where the established attorneys there probably were going to make sure he didn't get any work. Landed in Anahuac, and he was kind of a natural leader, so they elected him to lead the local militia, mostly against Indian attacks. And the Santa Ana put an impresario there that collected taxes on imports that go into Galveston and that whole area. And he was pocketing a lot of the money himself. He was arbitrarily, you know how taxes are. Once they start, you can't get rid of them. And when he opposed them, they put him in a brick kiln oven for 7 weeks. I mean, they didn't light it, obviously, okay, but an empty brick kiln oven. And him and one of his other militiamen were held in there for 7 weeks.
They're little.
And I would argue, if you read history enough, that the word of that, he also, pretty enterprising guy, he bought a printing press when he was in Anahuac and started printing his own broadsides, which anything that he opposed, he printed a nice big broadside and he'd send it to people and it'd get posted all over town or in other towns. And when they found out that he was in this brick kiln, a lot of other people knew him because those broadsides had been distributed through Texas, and folks from Gonzales and from Goliad and from other places came, and there was the initial skirmish was actually in Anahuac. Now the famous one is Gonzales, but the hostilities actually started in Anahuac. So he arrives at the Alamo eventually, 26 years old, leading the force at the Alamo. And by the way, all the titles that were given to Colonel Davy Crockett and Lieutenant Colonel Travis and these guys weren't appointed. They were all elected. Those titles came originally from their local militias electing them to those positions. So if you were a colonel in your local militias, because the local people chose you. It wasn't because somebody from the state government or from the federal government appointed them. So Travis sold land that he got in land grants to finance his own mounted cavalry. He went around recruiting people for his own cavalry. And ladies, there's tons of stories like this. I'm only talking about one individual. And so, when I read about Travis and these type of things, I mean, these are the type of people that are here. I mean, look, these folks that sat in, there's probably more, and Daniel and Dwayne, some of you guys will know how many people sat in that little hut at Washington, Nebraska, inside the Declaration of Independence, but I venture to say there's more people in this room here than there was there. Okay? And so, for those of you that think that this can never happen, all I'll tell you is that only 2% of the American colonists participated in the American Revolution. 2%. 2% actually carried a musket and participated in the American Revolution. It's all about political pressure. This isn't a question about legalities or the Constitution. This is all about political will. And Kerry's exactly right. And until we exert that political will, it ain't going to happen. And that's what we're here for. This map that Randy showed you earlier, we need a Texas Nationalist county organizer in every one of the 254 counties, and we need them by the first of the year. We can do it, folks. Y'all all know people. We know people. Okay? You imagine, listen, I've been part of the Tea Party since its very beginning. Okay? I will tell you that the energy and the excitement and the growth of the TNM, just since I've been involved, and especially since the election, outpaces anything that I've seen in the Tea Party. Anything. So we're only getting started. Okay? The fire has been lit. We just need to throw enough logs on it so it becomes a bonfire. So, that's all I had to say about that. I appreciate that. And we'll talk about the memberships. Randy, if you'll hand those out. And we might not have enough for anybody, so you may need to share with your neighbor. I actually need one.
I'm videoing.
Okay. Let me know when we get those distributed. I'll go through these. Well, I'll actually start going through these ones before y'all get them. Obviously, and Daniel, Carrie, please fix me if I say anything incorrect about, you can be a member for this for a monthly fee. Okay? You can be a non-paying member of the TNM. Okay? I think. Can we, Daniel? That's not the goal here. We want you to have something invested. We need. Make no mistake about this. This is going to take political will, and it takes money to exert that political will. It takes money and people. So we're going to encourage you to join. And the best way to join is with an annual membership. And you see the annual memberships here, all the way from the Texting Advocate, which is only $60 a year. I mean, come on. I mean, people spend that a month in cigarettes. Some of you. Maybe a week. I don't know. I don't know what cigarettes cost. Couldn't tell you. Okay. No. I'm sorry. We need to print more. We will. We will print more. So there's the different levels of membership for the annual memberships. Everywhere from $60 a year to $1,000 a year. Okay. The next level is the level that I really want to talk to you about. Because personally, no matter what your economic, social background is, there's nothing that, unless somebody's unemployed and has got no money coming in, you should be able to join under one of those membership plans. Okay? I mean, Travis sold land to buy mounted cavalry for people he didn't know. The Independence Patron, $2,500 gets you the one of the prints from Bobby. The $3,500 one gets you another print from the Come and Take It. The Alamo Patron is what gets you one of these Texian bronzes. Not these. That one. The San Jacinto Patron is $10,000, and I'm going to tell you something too. And I know quite a few people in here can write larger checks than this, right? Because I know you. So this isn't the limit. Okay? We need to raise money in a hurry while this is on the tip of everybody's tongues, while it's on the mind of folks. Okay? We appreciate anything that you do. Any time. If you can't donate money, donate time. If you can't donate time, maybe you can donate money. Now, these are not, and just so I know I'm going to get asked this, this is not a tax-deductible contribution, okay? You're getting something in return. Don't complain to me about that. Go complain to Congress, okay? These are not tax-deductible, okay? Listen, I want to tell you, those. And one thing that Craig didn't say, I want to verify, you're numbering those. Besides, those are going to be unique pieces. And by the way, those aren't mass-produced. I don't know if you caught what Craig said. Each one of those 13-inch desktop sculptures had to be individually done. And they're going to be individually personalized, I guess, what you're telling us, with the name. And they're also going to be numbered. And I know what we paid for these. Okay? And They're priceless. You won't be able to get one of those. And Craig is doing these. The initial run of these is for the Texas Nationals. So there's no other way that you're going to be able to get this right now. So we need your money. And I don't have any bones about asking you for it. You need it. We need it. Look, whoever thought a progressive income tax? Are you kidding me? Who voted for that? Real estate taxes. Think about the original colonists, the 300 colonists that came with Austin, that you have to pay taxes in order to keep your land. I mean, who came up with this stuff? Death taxes. Many of us in here own our own business. For people with ranches and farms, you pass that down to your kids, they're going to have to sell pieces of that land in order to pay the damn death taxes, the state taxes.
That ain't right.
What is constitutional about any of those three things I just said?
Nothing.
I mean, sooner or later you put your foot down and say enough is enough is enough. So, to me, it's an investment. It is an investment to do what you can. I understand everybody's got limitations. Do what you can, but do something. Okay? Don't leave here without making a commitment to do something. We want you writing a check today. And I'm sorry, this is not, we did bring you here to extract your money.
You're doing a fine
Not
job.
totally. Okay? Not totally. So, hey, I'll put my money where my mouth is. Daniel, here's a $5,000 check for the Texas Nationals. Okay?
All right.
Old Ben Milam said, who's going to go to Bear with me when they went and took the Battle of the Siege of Bear? Originally how we got into the Alamo. Because after the Battle of Gonzales, they didn't want any Mexican military on Texas land, period. So they went and over a siege, over a long period of time, including hand-to-hand combat in downtown Bear, what we know today as San Antonio. Hand-to-hand combat to get the Mexican army out of the state of Texas. And Ben Milam looked at everybody and said, who's going to go to Bear with me? Who's going with me? Who is going to put their money where their mouth is, where your heart is? Guys, it's your kids and grandkids. I don't know what to tell you. If we don't do it now, this is happening on ours. Randy's exactly right. This is happening on our watch. So, you may not be able to do 10,000, but do what you can. Okay? You're going to get a piece of history. Wait till you see these prints that Bobby does. They're incredible. They're one of a kind. They ain't going to exist anywhere else. Okay? So, I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you. We've got to help them out. And just another note, too, because when we start asking for people for money, okay, and I'm one of the worst at this. Daniel will tell you that the books for the Texas Nationals are open to members. There's nothing hidden. It's completely transparent. If you got nervous about that, you need to go talk to Daniel. But I will tell you, these guys, I'm standing here before you with friends, business partners, others in front of me, okay? There's only a few people in my life that during a war I can sit around and wake up after all the shelling's gone, look up, and in the foxhole there's still a couple people with me. And these are those type of folks and their spouses. So that's what we're looking for. You guys, join us, for whatever you can do. But do whatever you can do and do it tonight. So with that, we're going to bring up the next speaker. I appreciate your time. God bless Texas.
If y'all will allow me just a couple minutes, I'm going to have the privilege of introducing Daniel Miller. Several years ago, when I told you I was frustrated and everything, I needed to find out what the Texas Nationalist movement was all about. I needed to find out who was in it, and I needed to find out what the thought process was. So I did the same thing that Dave did. I got in the car and I drove to Nederland to interview Daniel. And one of the things that I was concerned about, because I told you before that, I'm a Vietnam veteran and I'm an ex-state police officer. I've seen enough violence in my life. I didn't want any more of it. And that was a concern of mine. And one of the first things that Daniel told me that I now preach and have preached for years is that the Texas nationalist movement is a peaceful legislative process. It's all it can be. That's all it can be. And if anybody gets off, quote, the reservation, you'll get a visit from me or Daniel, and because we don't allow it. It's not the way to do it. We have committed, and Daniel committed to me, that the Texas nationalist movement will not bring violence to Texas. Now, we're Texans. If somebody else brings it here, we'll stand up for it. But we won't bring it to Texas. And so what I did by interviewing Daniel is I put those fears that I had at rest, because I understand it has to be done peacefully and legislatively. But what I also found out is that every organization, especially an organization like this, needs a leader. And that leader has got to have a backbone of steel. This Texas independence movement, folks, is not for the faint of heart. We've already heard it today. We're called every name in the book. I got over most of that in grade school, but it still bothers you after you try to put together a worthwhile life. It still bothers you. And we get it all the time because people don't know what they're talking about. They don't know how to address the situation. Daniel has the facts. Daniel has a backbone of spine. He has been through everything that you could possibly go through in 16 years, and what he's done is he transfers that to us. He knows where every landmine is planted, and he guides us through this political system and through the system of building a movement and getting everybody on the same page of music, because it's his destiny. He loves Texas as much or more than anybody in this room. I will tell you that I will call him a great debater. There is no one in Austin that will debate him. If they do, it'll only be once. Don't get into a trivial pursuit about Texas history with him. You'll lose. Okay? He is a brilliant young man, but he is focused. He is determined. He has not let anything, anyone, or anybody ever stop him from pursuing Texas independence. And so I found a leader when I went to Nederland, and he has become not only my leader, but he's been a mentor to me. I've learned a tremendous amount from him. And so can you. So can everybody in the Texas nationalist movement. And if you've, from being on Sean Hannity's show 2 weeks ago to being interviewed by some of the most liberal, one-sided people you've ever seen in your whole life, they won't come back for round 2, trust me. Because he represents us, and he represents the state of Texas with a purity of heart, and I mean that with all my heart, a purity of heart that is really difficult to find. So with that said, I would like to introduce the president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, Mr. Daniel Miller, and my friend.
Let me just start off by saying, all shucks, Kerry. You know how to embarrass a guy. Am I blushing a little bit? Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. And before we talk about any of the real serious stuff, let me do this. Our hosts for tonight, Tracy, Randy, Dave, let's give these guys a big round of applause. Of course, probably somebody who's going to be my brand new best friend, Craig. I love artists, man, and everybody give this guy a hand too. They say that public speaking is one of the greatest fears, and he slayed that dragon pretty good tonight.
Yeah.
So, Craig, I think you need to do more of that. Look at him; he's squirming in his chair already. Well, let me do this. Before we get started, I want to make a couple of observations. First and foremost, tonight I realized how much Randy looks like my attorney, which actually frightens me. Second, I have found out that this area is perhaps one of the most Texian areas in the entire state of Texas. From Dalhart to Del Rio, from Orange to El Paso, I have traveled the highways and the byways. And I have seen a heart and a spirit among those of you who are sitting here tonight that frankly I find inspiring. So my thanks is to you. Now, I was at a meeting last night, and you guys will have to bear with me. I'm running low on coffee, so I might get a little edgy. But I was at a meeting last night, and I started off with one phrase. Man, what a difference an election makes.
Yeah.
For 16 very long years, I have pursued this issue of Texas independence. I have been, and I think it's very apropos that these are here, because for 16 years, I feel like this guy. Regardless of what people said, they said it was lunacy to believe that Texas should be or could be independent. That every time they slapped us down, we would raise up that banner and made a commitment to ourselves a long time ago that even if we were the solo, the last man standing, to our very last breath, we would hold that banner high because it means something. And I can see on the faces of all of you here tonight that you have got that same fortitude. You've got that spine of steel that Kerry talked about. Now, unfortunately, given these long meetings, it doesn't typically come with a rear end of steel to match. But the fact of the matter is, you exert that fortitude, that sincere belief in a core set of principles. Now, let's get something else squared away, too. You hear us talk an awful lot about the Alamo, as Texans should. Not everyone inside the Alamo was of one accord. But all of the things that they were disagreeing on were trivial in comparison to the primary issue. And that issue was the issue of freedom, the issue of independence, the issue that sometimes there are principles that are worth fighting for at any cost. And that may be where we are here in this room today. Many of you may have ideas about where Texas should go. You may have ideas of what you would like an independent Texas to look like or how we should proceed with making that happen. But I can tell you that, and I would hope that we are all of one accord here, that there are some things that are worth fighting for. That there is a reason to hold that banner up high. And I'm going to tell you why. Because whether you think this is hyperbole or exaggeration, I can tell you that we live in a time where we are being rapidly plunged into darkness. We are living on the North American continent right now that is experiencing unprecedented political, cultural, and economic upheaval. We are being plunged into darkness. And we have here an opportunity, because of our history, because of our heritage, and because of that steel spine, to hold that flag up and let the Lone Star of Texas shine the way for everyone else. People are watching us. I get to see it. I have my finger on the pulse. And what I have seen, not just since November, but for 16 years, are people in other states, people in other countries, people in other regions that want to be countries around the world that tell us, we are watching Texas. You are the leaders. You inspire us. Countries all around the world, and it's understandable. At the end of World War II, there were 54 recognized countries around the globe. At the end of the 20th century, there were 192. We've had more new countries added since the turn of the 21st century. Independence is breaking out everywhere. And it seems now that that fire has been stoked in the hearts of Texans. And I got to tell you, it's a little rough being 16 years early to the party. But I'm sure glad you guys made it. Now, it was interesting to hear Dave get up here and talk about membership, and I'm glad he did, because frankly, it's kind of an uncomfortable thing for me. I'm not a detail guy. I'm a concept guy. See, they know me. You hear that snickering over there? But I do know the details. I do know the details of what it takes. What it's going to take to get us independent, the process and the pain that we may have to endure to make that happen, but it's all worth it. So while you heard a lot about the what and the how, I'm going to share with you the thing that really the 16 years has taught me, and that is the why. And I'm going to share with you we're going to take a little mental trip here, guys. We're going back to the Titanic. The Titanic hit the iceberg and began to take on water. And within 12 minutes, the captain had already had an assessment of the damage, that they were so damaged that they were taking on water so fast that the ship could not be saved. Now, as we begin to proceed and look at the options, understand what that must have been like. It was dark. It was cold. You're in the middle of the North Atlantic, and you're crowded onto a boat with a lot of people who are they're not quite used to having a crisis. Let's just put it that way. And so the word came down that the ship was lost. And the crew went out and began to implement their evacuation procedures. And so imagine you're on this ship, and you've got some options. Now, let me explain to you what those options are, and I think you're going to understand where I'm going. Number one, you can decide to have an election for a new captain, because you don't particularly care for the news. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you could be one of the two drunk guys at the bar arguing over your bar tab. You could be one of those guys. You could decide to go find a bunch of buckets and start trying to bail water. Or you could do something that seems just so positively sane, and that's go get in the lifeboat. You get in the lifeboat to save your life because life is precious, right? Self-preservation. You may want to help your fellow passengers get to the lifeboats and take your chances, but you do it because it's something that is worth saving. And that's what many people did on the Titanic. Some gave their seats on the lifeboat to others because there was a limited amount. Some took the opportunity to get on there, and then, of course, if you saw the movie, Rose floated on a plank and let Jack drown. There was room on that plank, I'm telling you. You can do that. But you see, folks, this is really where we're at. This is where we're at. Anyone here believe that the Union, the United States as we have known it, has hit an iceberg and is taking on water? Does everyone here believe that? Okay, because I think I may be in the right room then. And without going in all the facts and figures, I can start by giving you 16 trillion reasons for Texas independence and national debt. Or I could go into the fact that they absolutely do not care for the Constitution whatsoever. They do not observe it. They have stripped you of all of your individual rights. They have encroached on the rights of the state. I think you get the point. We can talk about all that. We can talk about how they've utterly decimated the Constitution, the document that binds the states together. But let's talk about the real why for Texas independence. Because we know the Titanic has hit the iceberg. We know that it's taking on water at a rate that cannot be solved or fixed. And we know that there are some things that are worth preserving. the principles of freedom, the principles of liberty, the principles of independence, the principles of limited government, the principles of a Republican form of government, all of these are worth it. 16 years worth it for yours truly, folks. Because some things are worth fighting for. Some things are worth taking time away from your families. Some things are worth going out and investing in a tank of gas to go speak at a meeting or to go teach someone something about this that they don't know. They're worth it. So here we stand. All of us here in this room with a choice. And I'm going to share these two things with you before I lay the choice down, because I know I'm on a time limit and I'm kind of long-winded, so I'm going to cut to the chase, folks, because that's how I work. The current Texas Constitution says this: post-Civil War Constitution, before anyone wants to start arguing the Constitution or the Civil War or any of that kind of stuff, post-Civil War Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, the first thing out of the chute, accepted by the federal government as the new Constitution for the state of Texas, says these words: Texas is a free and independent state, subject only to the Constitution of the United States, and the maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of the Union depend on the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. Key in on that phrase. The perpetuity of the Union depends on the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. Then it tells us what to do. It tells us that we don't have to secede. We don't have to go in there and elect a new captain of the Titanic. We don't have to go find yet a bigger and bigger bucket. We no longer have to go out there and do all of these things that we have been taught are the way to do it. We just have to remember those first words. Texas is a free and independent state. Article 1, Section 2, right after it, tells us how this is done. It says that all political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. And the people have at all times the inalienable right to reform, alter, or abolish their form of government in such manner as they may think expedient. Let that sink in. Article 1, Section 2 tells us exactly what has to be done. But it also issues a challenge. It is the cannon shot from the walls of the Alamo at us. It places a massive burden and responsibility on us. Because what is political power if you can't organize it, muster it, and employ it? So this is about the people. Our organization, the Texas Nationalist Movement, that is our core principle. You've heard our mission statement a couple of times tonight. The complete, total, and unencumbered political, cultural, and economic independence of Texas. To return Texas to a constitutional republic. To secure the rights of Texans. The right of local self-government. The right that the federal government has gone and sent troops all around the globe to fight for in other lands, thousands upon thousands of miles away. That is the right that we are fighting for right now. And it's such an ironic situation. Because we stand, strangely enough, and again, between these two. An icon, an example of the same absolute battle for principles that we are fighting for right now. Friends, this is you. This is you. Because if it's not you, the alternative is not worth mentioning. So it gets down to this fact. It gets down to the brass tacks. And I share the Titanic story with you. And I share all of these things with you to bring it down to this. I heard my book mentioned a couple of times tonight. Before anyone gets the idea that this is all about selling books for me, it's available for free online. Go download it. I wrote the thing in 20-degree weather in 12 days. I just needed to get it out of my head and on paper. I had to bundle up what was 15 years at the time and get it in some form that could be easily communicated. But that book was titled Line in the Sand for a very specific reason. Because in the whole time that I had been engaged in this, I had a very special affinity for William Barrett Travis. And enjoyed what Dave shared about Travis tonight. Because when I got involved in this movement, I was young, much younger, much less mileage. And Travis was young. I mean, imagine, 26, 27 years old. He's in command of the Alamo. A group of a couple hundred folks, a bunch of civilians in the walls of a crumbling adobe church, standing against what was arguably the best military in the Western Hemisphere at the time. Terrible, terrible responsibility. Some things are worth it. But what always struck me was the story about the siege. And I always focused in on the 12th day of the siege. Everyone here knows the story about the line in the sand, I'm assuming. But let me give you the Reader's Digest version. By the 12th day, it was obvious that no help was coming. That there would be no reinforcements. Fannin wasn't coming. Houston wasn't coming. What they had in the walls of the Alamo is what they had. And they knew what that meant. That meant that they were going to die. And so Travis assembled all the men out in the courtyard in front of the chapel, as the story goes, and he pulled out his sword, and he got in front of everyone, and he started at one end of the line, and he drew the line all the way across, and then he addressed the men. There's no help. The situation is untenable. We have very few options. Virtually all of them end in death. One of them is we can try to sneak out under the cover of darkness and probably will be cut down by Mexican cavalry, or we can stay here and stand. To mount the walls and do what we can for what matters. And then he said, I'm staying. Regardless of what you choose, I'm staying. Let that sink in for a moment. He was willing, if he were the only person on that wall, he was willing to stay. Because that's what the right thing was to do. Sometimes all you have left is to stand. But he issued the invitation that any of the folks that were there that wished to go over the wall could do so with no harm, no foul. I'm sure they would have talked about them behind their backs a little bit. But he said any of those folks that wanted to stand like him, he invited them to step across that line and join him. And so the line in the sand is very instructive to Texans of this generation. It's instructive for this day. Because it's more than just a story. Some people will call it a myth. But it's a parable for our time. It's not drawing a line against people on the outside. That's what they had the walls of the Alamo for. But it was a personal challenge. It was a personal challenge to those folks that were there. It was a call to make a personal decision about standing or fleeing. Well, folks, flanked by these two statues of the Texan holding the banner high, I have to tell you that Travis's line in the sand was for me, and it was for you. And so, if you want to know what the why is, the why is this. Because they went to the walls. Because some things matter that much. So tonight, I don't know how much you know about what we have done in the Texas nationalist movement. I don't know what your depth of knowledge is about Texas independence. I don't know where you are on your journey, as Kerry puts it. I don't know where you are. But I know this. Tonight is your line in the sand moment. Tonight is your moment where that choice, that call to decision is being made. I think you all understand the situation quite well. I think we covered that back when we were talking about the Titanic. And I know you have probably a million questions. But at the end of the day, I will tell you that when I crossed the line in the sand, none of those things mattered to me. I didn't care what the monetary system was going to look like. I didn't care about how my mail was going to get delivered. I didn't care about how the federal roads were going to be taken care of. I didn't care if we were invaded by the American military or the Mexican military or the North Koreans, if you saw Red Dawn recently, which is so implausible. None of those things mattered to me. Because what I wanted was to be that guy. With all the symbolism there, I wanted to be that guy. When they fought their fight, there was no laid out roads. There was no manual on independence. None of those questions had been worked out. The most important thing was to stand. So, I have to tell you that tonight I hope you can make your decision. Whether you choose to become a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement or not, that's entirely your choice. What I'm asking you to do is do your heart check, to determine where you are on your journey, and to understand that there are some things that are worth it. And I'm asking you to cross that line in the sand. Join with us, whether in presence or in spirit, however you do that. But we need you. We're taken to the walls, and we need you shoulder to shoulder. This is not only doable, it's not only desirable, it is inevitable. But it's going to take us. So I want to thank you all. Thank you for your diligence. Thank you for enduring the seats, which I see have great cushions. Thank you for your attentiveness. And most of all, thank you for caring enough about Texas to be here with us tonight. I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to look to Dave because, again, Randy looks an awful lot like my lawyer, and that just surprised me.
Daniel, stay up here with me for a second if you don't mind. We won't be much longer, folks, I promise. If it's okay with Daniel, what we thought we'd do is have a real short 8 minutes for any questions that you want to pose to Daniel, and we'll try to answer them. If anybody wants question and answers, I think y'all are going to hang around. We're going to hang around for a while after this too. So if you don't want to ask something in public, you don't have to. But if there's anything you want to ask about the movement, and Daniel, now and you want to go ahead.
Just describe the interest in the movement after the results of the election.